Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us in our live demo session, where we'll be focusing on how logistics companies are using Front as their competitive edge. My name's Teresa, and I'm part of the product marketing team here at Front, and I'm joined by AJ, who is our solutions engineer, and he will be our product expert throughout this session. So before we get into it, here's a quick preview of what you can expect in this session. We'll spend a couple minutes talking about what we're seeing in the logistics space, as well as what Front can do for your logistics teams. And then I'll pass it over to AJ, who will be doing a live demo walkthrough where he'll show us a couple of different scenarios and workflows that are relevant to the space. And then, of course, because this session is for you, I would encourage you to drop any questions into the questions panel, which we'll be monitoring throughout the session. And at the very end, we'll make sure that your questions will be addressed in the Q&A portion. So with that, let's get into it. As your business grows, engaging with customers in a high-touch, scalable way becomes harder and harder to achieve. And this is largely due to the fact that customer communications have been hacked together across several teams and across many specific tools. So if we take the example of a brokered freight load, your customer may be emailing in and talking to several different members across the business, such as carrier operations, sales development, and accounting. But beyond that, these teams are probably also communicating with each other to make sure that they're on the same page when it comes to a customer request. We're also seeing that communications is being spread across many specific tools and then causing a lot of different silos. So we have our traditional platforms such as email, phone, and messaging for points of customer engagement. You may have Salesforce or HubSpot, which houses your customer records. And then a TMS, which you'll often look at when it comes to shipment updates, such as SAP or MercuryGate. And so with that understanding, now we can start to dissect how disjointed communications is hurting the bottom line for logistics companies. Given that email is the primary form of communication, it's no surprise that users are constantly buried under high email volume, and this is due to distribution lists and forwarding chaos. Specifically for logistics, we know that there's a specific tie when it comes to revenue relative to accountability and efficiency when responding to clients. And a lot of times this leads to missed messages or delayed responses that result in potential lost revenue. The reaction time is absolutely critical when it comes to winning more business. The second piece that we're seeing is around messy collaboration, which results in deep inefficiencies and duplicative work. Obviously, it's not ideal to have to spend dedicated time sifting through email to figure out who's working on which messages and what's going on. In some cases, there may even be two separate responses that are sent to the same customer. And as I mentioned in the previous slide, because there's so much of this cross-functional collaboration that happens between the different teams and across different tool sets, this leads to a lot of fragmented conversations and handoffs. The third piece that we're seeing is around slow response times. This is where opportunities and messages may start to slip through the cracks if you're always playing catch up. Slow response times, when it comes to slow response times, we know that time is money in this industry, whether that's making sure that you can get a response or a quote out faster, or making sure that a shipment is on track so that it's not sitting around longer than it needs to and adding additional costs. Slow responses will also lead to service level breaches, which then ultimately impact and then lower your customer satisfaction scores. And then there's also the lack of visibility. With your current email platform today, it's either extremely manual to extract this data, and there's no way that you can actually measure what the performance of a team or an individual looks like. So things like making sure, are you able to track response times? Are you able to understand what productivity looks like? And so without access to these analytics, it makes it really hard for management or leadership to understand where these workflow or shipment bottlenecks may reside in your email. And ultimately it hinders their ability to make the right decisions when it comes to optimizing internal processes. So how does Front tackle these challenges for logistics companies? Front is a hub for customer communication that looks, feels, and acts like your email client, but comes with a lot more power and functionality behind it. You'll be able to get the automation and insights of a CRM or a TMS, plus all the relevant context that you need by integrating your most used systems so that you have everything consolidated into one place and know exactly what you need to work on. What this ultimately helps with is helping your team to level up every customer interaction. And so with Front, what it helps you do is to get more revenue out of email. This means that you'll be able to win more business by tackling high volume inboxes with a shared team space where you can reduce that email clutter and duplicated messages. You'll be able to improve response times with time-based rules, and then also eliminate missed messages with clear assignments to specific messages, with clear owners to specific messages. Now you can be the first to get a quote or response back to a customer and then ultimately lock in more deals. The second thing that Front helps with is increasing efficiency. So you can automate away your busy work with a very simple but robust rules engine. This also allows for smoother handoffs because all the context is housed in one place. And then your team can also work better together with some really neat collaboration features that AJ will show in just a couple minutes. So what we want to do is to ultimately give you your time back so that you can work on more shipments or take on new projects without having to scale that headcount. And then last but not least is making customers happier. So what Front does is helping you to provide tailor-made service at scale, reduce SLA breaches with some really cool rules-based, time-based rules, and then help uncover workflow bottlenecks with some analytics pieces to help power your business. And so this is how logistics companies can maintain their competitive edge with unmatched service that ultimately helps them to win more customers and then drive repeat business. And since we're on this topic of customers, we actually have over 6,500 customers today. And more specifically, here are some of your peers who are using Front. And if you want to learn more, I would encourage you to check out our customer stories on our website. And so with that, I'm going to pass it over to AJ to walk you through a live demo of Front.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Teresa. That was great. As she mentioned, my name is AJ. I am a solutions engineer here at Front and excited to jump in and show you the platform. Perfect. So now that everyone can see it, this is Front, the customer communication hub used by many logistics businesses like yours, such as SS Forwarding Worldwide, Flexport, MNX Global, McQuilling, and many, many more. Front is designed to look and feel very similar to email so that users will still operate with the familiarity of an inbox. Just to get a sense of spatially what we're working with, moving from left to right. On the left-hand side, we have our navigation panel, which is where we will have both our individual and team workspaces. You'll notice here under me, I have my personal work email addresses, like my AJ Gmail or Office 365, as well as team spaces where we have shared and team inboxes like quotes, operations, billings, and even SMS. Moving to the right, we'll see a list of conversations, almost like a preview, very similar to what you'll see in your current email client today. And to the right of that, we have the message itself, which is where you actually get to interact and take actions on the email or message, such as replying, tagging, commenting, anything else that you can do within Front. On the far right-hand side, this small column here is what we call our integrations panel. And this is how we go ahead and access any third-party systems that we might need to use to pull data directly into Front, like your TMS, your CRM, anything else you can imagine, we can go ahead and pull it in. An important call out is that nothing changes for your customers or partners. And in fact, all parties will benefit from using Front. Your customers will be happier with your quality of service. Teams will operate more efficiently to win more business, and leadership will have visibility into performance. In this demo, I'm going to walk you through a couple of different workflows that show how Front has helped leading logistics teams drive more revenue from email, speed up their response times, and deliver outstanding customer experiences all around. Let's start in the team inboxes down here. And imagine I am part of the sales or business development team that handles all inbound shipment requests here in the quotes inbox. Here is where I can see all the messages that come in from customers in a nice, neat list. These emails, if you'll notice at the top, are in the unassigned tab, and that is because they do not have a dedicated owner yet, and they are waiting in a queue to be actioned on. However, switching over to the assigned tab, we can actually see all of the messages that do have a dedicated owner. This helps to drive accountability and clarify who is responsible for which messages, so I never have to assume that someone is working on it, or even worse, send an email about an email, which only compounds that distribution list chaos. You'll see this assignment here where next to whoever the sender was, it has who's assigned to them. In these cases, to me, AJ. We also have Andrea, Teresa, and you can view it up here as well. And at any point, you can change that assignee to anyone else on your team, and it will seamlessly hand it off to them. This is how a company like Estes Forwarding Worldwide's daily email volume decreased by about 725 emails per person per day by eliminating that distribution list chaos, which saved each teammate about 2 hours per day triaging emails. Looks like this message with an urgent shipment request has been assigned to me. So assignments can be done manually or even automatically using Front's powerful rules engine. Rules are 100% customizable, so it can auto-route messages based on certain attributes of the message, like an account, a specific sender, or even selected keywords. There's even a round robin and load balancing distribution rules so that the workload gets distributed evenly across the team. It's a great way to ensure that the team is never duplicating work or sending multiple responses back to the customer. You may have noticed as well next to the subject line here and as well right here, tags being visible. Tags are essentially a folder equivalent, which gives you a clear way to organize your message. They're a critical component in analytics, which I'll showcase a little bit later in the demo. You can also pin specific tags to your workspace that you might think are important. So for example, right here, you see the hot load tag. Now this has been automatically assigned based on keywords in the email like urgent or ASAP. So we know that it's very important that we handle this message very fast in order to win the business. You also may have noticed during my speaking, the SLA warning tag pop up. Now, SLAs are something that we have the ability to implement on a time-based rule. So as it currently stands, we have a warning come up after 5 minutes, and eventually an actual breach will pop up after 10 minutes. And each time when a warning or a breach comes, it will actually go ahead and notify not only the assignee, but maybe even a manager, and make sure it's escalated to the proper channels so that we answer it in a very timely fashion. This is how MNX Global Logistics was able to sustain a 15-minute response time for their SLA, even though their message volume increased 4x. On that note, too, I mentioned you could pin it. So as a manager, if I want to always have a view into how we're doing with our SLAs, I can go ahead and just pin those tags in real time, SLA warning and breach, and that way they're always present on my navigation panel. So I can click in and see all of the messages that are potentially about to be breached. So moving back to the message that we were working on, I can start to craft a response. Now, since quote message or quote requests come in so often, my team already has a standardized response that we can use in a message template to make sure that we are firing it off as quickly as possible. And with that, I can go into reply, into message templates, and go ahead and click it. You'll notice it pre-fills in some of the information like who I'm responding to, who I am, a link to the actual quote itself, and here I can add in the quote number on my own. And this is how a company like Load One was actually able to build out completely custom workflows, and they were able to win more business by doing about 400 to 600 automatic quotes per day. And Front's automation, message templates, everything else has helped us supercharge the team to produce customer quotes in just 1 minute rather than the previous manual process, which took up to 8 minutes to provide a response. Once this is good to go and I'm ready to send, you'll notice the button down here says send in archive and not just send. And that's because we want your inbox to be thought of less so as a list, but more so as a to-do list. So anything that populates your inbox, we want it to be an action item. And then when you go ahead and complete it, you want to cross it off the list and move it out of sight, out of mind. That's where we have the concept of inbox zero, and that's what we are striving to get. So once you go ahead and send an archive, you'll notice it's now disappeared. So our inbox is a little bit neater and closer to being empty and fully done. But the message is not gone. It's just now archived. So you'll notice if we go into the archive tab at the top, here it is. So at any point, if you need to reference, you can go ahead and find it. Now, Front is a great tool not only for inter-team collaboration, but also cross-functional collaboration. I'll show how easy it is for a sales or business development team to collaborate with someone on, say, the operations team, who is responsible for managing the lifecycle of a shipment. So we can go back into the assigned tab of our quotes inbox, and you'll notice that this one is a rush delivery. Our customer has asked for a quote request on a certain delivery. we've actually gone ahead and given them the quote, and it's been totally agreed upon. So that's great. Let's proceed with the next steps here. We need to actually loop in the operations team in order to fulfill the shipment. So I can drop a comment right down below to a specific member of the operations team. So at Teresa, right, delivery, please prioritize. And what this does is actually allows for a seamless way to collaborate within your team and without losing any of the context. You'll notice that the little ellipses pops up, which means that she is responding in real time. So all of this is going on in the background, and it's all internal. So that means that the customer will never see these messages. We'll prioritize. Awesome. And anytime that she's been brought into the conversation as well, you never lose any of the context. So she's looking at the same master copy of the conversation that I am. She can scroll up, see all of the messages that have gone on beforehand, figure out what's going on, and any of the audit trail as well. In order to now get this message to the operations team, I can simply add a tag. You'll notice now it is moved from quotes. Operations is now lit up in bold with the 1, meaning that Front's rules engine has automatically routed to the operations inbox with all of the context still saved as I mentioned. And the best thing, I didn't create more email clutter by forwarding this email to an alias with several members or a distribution list with many, many members who then get it all within their personal inbox. It's now one master copy living in this operations inbox. It's off my plate, but I know it's in the right place. A company like Jarrett Logistics was actually able to leverage rules to help instantly route each of their emails to the right team members, and they've helped decrease their email volume by about 75%. We can now step into the shoes of someone on the operations team and see this message has been handed off because this audit trail here showcases exactly what's happened. It's been moved to the operations inbox with all of the context. So we know it came from the sales and business development team. The comment says to prioritize it as a rush delivery and may require the night shift to monitor after business hours. I can kick off the workflow once again by just adding another tag, urgent after hours, so that handoffs are seamless and it's flagged as a priority for the next shift. We can now switch to a new scenario, but still within an operations role. So imagine I primarily service a number of our VIP accounts. The shipper has sent a note directly into my personal inbox, actually, and not into the team inbox, asking for a shipment update. We can see that by clicking into my personal email address here, and here it is from Leighton Graves asking for a shipment inbox. And just to confirm that they are a VIP client, you'll see the VIP tag has been added because this account is associated as one of our VIPs. Without switching out of Front, I can actually service this request by clicking into the integrations panel that I alluded to a little bit earlier and pulling up our custom TMS plugin. Now, this is an option for any TMS as long as it has an API, so a custom plugin can be developed. By centralizing your most used applications or systems into a single platform, teams are able to be more efficient as they no longer waste time toggling between tools and context switching. I can see when I pull it up all of the relevant details associated with this order, like its tracking ID number, the account, location, pickup date, etc. It is also a two-way connective sync, so any updates that happen here will be reflected on the back end within your system. I can now draft a very quick response to Leighton about the delay using the draft and update button here. You'll notice it auto fills in with a message template with all of the information already done so that we can make sure that this gets out very quickly since they are a VIP client and we want to make sure that we have the most exceptional service for them. Also, though, because it is a VIP client, I might want to loop in someone like my manager so that they can okay before it goes out. And I can do that by just sharing the draft up here. Andrea, FYI, and this will give them full visibility into the draft that I'm crafting and actually the ability to edit it in real time if they wanted to make a little bit of tweaks before sending it out. So this lets us collaborate together and in real time to coordinate better behind the scenes so the customer doesn't see it, they just see the better response that happens because of it. Now, if I need to move this to the billing department because they need to do some sort of AR or reconciliation for this payment, I can simply drag and drop the message like this directly into the team. Front is all about delivering a seamless handoff between cross-functional teamwork. And so it really improves the ways that you can collaborate internally. You notice now here it is in the billing department. Once again, the full context is here as well as that audit trail I mentioned. I can now transition into Front's analytics engine. Now, Front's analytics provides the insight into all inbox activity. This is something that has been pretty tough or extremely manual to do with traditional inboxes. And it really gives leadership the opportunity to get reports that they need to understand how teams or how individual performances and where shipment bottlenecks or inefficiencies might be occurring. Reports are fully customizable to your liking. So for example, up here, you can edit by what inbox within your team, which teammates, or even add another filter like tags or does not have a tag. We can even edit the date range up here. You'll notice it has roughly about the last week, missing today, but I can change that just with the simple drop-down menu, configure the date range to be that of my liking. A couple of the main sections I wanted to highlight on the left-hand side here are team performance, tags, and SLAs. So starting with team performance, we can get you some key metrics at top, like how many messages our team has sent, what their average reply time was. I can even scroll down and see a heat map here to figure out when is the most likely time that we are getting our inbound messages. So you'll notice Thursday mornings are very busy, and Tuesday and Monday afternoon, as well as when we are getting some messages, which really gives you a sense of how to properly prepare your team and maybe even staff them. So when you have the highest influx of messages, we can make sure that we're prepared. Scrolling down to team performance, we can look at all of the members of the team. Notice only 3 here, but you can see how many messages someone sent out, what their reply time was on average, their handle time, how many they've archived, and you can even customize this to have any number of metrics, including SLA breaches and what their customer satisfaction score is. Now moving to tags, we can actually get a holistic sense of what's happening with all of the conversations that are tagged in our inbox. So this can give you a better sense of what kind of communications we're having. So for example, the VIP tag gives me a sense of how our top customers are actually, how many times they're writing in, what kind of requests they're asking for, things like that. I can even drill down even further by clicking right here to see all of the conversations that have that VIP tag in our team, pull up those conversations just by clicking on them, so we can really get a sense of how our VIP customers are interacting with us. The last bit I wanted to showcase was SLAs. So by clicking into the SLA here, we can actually see how many breaches and warnings we've had in total during this time period. It's going to be very important to understand how we're tracking. We can even see it based on a time period. So you'll notice that Tuesday, August 19th, 12 and 11, we didn't do as well, but this Monday and Tuesday, we've been tracking a little bit better because it's gone down, but it gives you a sense of how you're performing over time. And once again, you can even drill down further and see exactly the messages that make up each one of those bar charts. Moving back to the home page and wrapping it up, with Front, logistics companies reduce their internal email clutter and are able to improve their response times and eliminate missed messages with shared inboxes. You're able to wow your customers with great service through native collaboration features that help streamline internal processes, while analytics and SLA reports drive accountability. This way, you can always be the first to get back to your customers and supercharge team productivity so that it leads to winning more business and revenue growth. Thank you so much for your time, and I can turn it back to Teresa.
Awesome. Thank you, AJ, for such a rock star demo. And so now this brings us to the Q&A portion of the session. I see that a couple questions have come in. The first one from Kevin. Any best practices you're finding on how to integrate the integration sidebar with a company's TMS or other systems, or just to have the visibility into things without leaving Front?
So I think that depends on the company. I would say for like the how, it's always the same. As long as there's the API, we can go ahead and connect it. Now, as opposed to what information we really want to show, that one is a little bit trickier to answer. The best practice, what we showed in our custom TMS, is kind of the bare minimum. And that's what we've seen from a lot of our companies on when we've kind of drill down in what would be the most important metric to see, what is like really important to give to a customer. So that's kind of what I guess I would say the answer is. Really what is going to be a customer focused information that you can pull in, because front is essentially that middle ground between your customer and then that back end. So we really want the information being pulled in to be something that's going to be valuable to the customer. You can also customize it as deep as you want to go, pull in as much information as you want to pull in.
Great. A lot of interest around the front API and the TMS integrations. We do have another question from Nathan. Who is able to build the API between front and the TMS?
Yes. So that one, there's a couple of different directions we can go with that. We are able to provide you with all of the resources, such as like all of our API documentation, and then internally you can build that custom plugin connector where it goes ahead and just pulls in all the information. We do have a professional services team as well that's tasked specifically with building these out on your behalf if it's not something that you have the internal bandwidth to actually build. And then that's a scoping call that we can have, or they'll come in, figure out the exact requirements of the plugin that you want to build, and go ahead and make it into a reality.
Cool. The next question is from Nishant. After implementation, can we add all of our existing emails from our team's inbox?
So I think that question is referring to our ability to sync with all of your emails. And yes, we do provide you with the ability to actually retroactively add all previous emails that exist currently in your inbox. There is a limitation. So I think Google you can import up to 50,000 historical emails. And I think Outlook is similar, but I don't know the actual number off the top of my head. But you can import all past emails, or if you wanted to just start fresh, you have the ability to disable that instead.
Great. And the next question comes from Ryan. Can an SLA be applied to only the first email of a customer's inbound thread? We would like an SLA to be applied on the first email, such as a quote request email, but not have that same SLA on every subsequent follow-up email.
Yes, so you can do it so it's actually only the first, and once like a reply has been sent, it goes ahead and does away with the SLA warning. So that's something within the rules engine that you can configure. It's very customizable, where you can add as little or as many conditions as you want, and we can make sure that unreplied to is one of those conditions for the SLA to apply.
Awesome. Let's see. I think there's a couple more questions coming in, and we have a little bit more time. So as people start to type them in, I'll field them over to you.
Perfect.
So Gabriel had a question. With logistics companies in mind, are there any new features that Front is developing that either of you can sneak peek? A little bit of a roadmap question.
Yes. So one of the ones that we're debuting soon that's in beta, it could be logistics. I think it's more of a general one, but it's one that I'm just personally very excited about, and that is our accounts feature, which gives you the ability to actually add accounts into Front. And along with these accounts, you can add who their account manager is, if they're high priority, if the opportunity value associated with them, anything like that. And then we have the ability to dynamically use the rules engine to check the account, whoever is writing in based on their domain, and then assign it to their manager. Or if it's high priority, route it to a very specific inbox that is serviced by a different number of people. So that's one that I'm very excited about. It might not be a specific logistics use case, but I think there is a lot of opportunity within the logistics space.
Awesome. And then just one last question. Can there be more than one person assigned to a message?
No. So assignments are just solo. And the reason for that is we don't want, if it's assigned to multiple people, it can almost be thought of as being assigned to none. And because you would get the notion of, oh, maybe I thought you had it, maybe I thought you had it, and that's how things can start to slip through the cracks. So when it only has one owner, then they have that clear accountability and they know that they're the ones to handle it.
Cool. So it looks like that's pretty much all the questions that have been coming in. I also want to be mindful of time. So we're going to close out this Q&A portion of the webinar. And again, both AJ and I want to thank you guys for joining our session. And we hope that you were able to find this useful. So with that, we'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.